there hasn't been an official statement, so I guess that anything's possible. Maybe this isn't confirmed, but, and in all of our news videos, when it's talking about stuff like this, unless it's official images or news straight from the horse's mouth, we do say to take it with a grain of salt. So anything is possible, I guess, but it does seem like this could be for real. So just a couple days ago, we got on here and talked about a Reddit post that was put up about the AEW and Jazwares line, man. We got on here, we put up the Reddit post. I'll put up the Reddit post so you guys can see it. We talked about it, we discussed it, and, we got into the entire, lore of it. We broke it down and everything like that. And since then, we have had some more information come out about this. Let's get into it here. We broke this down. This was the post yesterday. For the figure collectors, Jazwares will no longer have the AEW license. Not quite sure yet the details around the split, but it's happening. Who would you like to see pick up the figure line in the future? Hasbro. And so everybody was kind of talking about this around the wrestling action figure community, as we do. And then we did have an update. I think it was yesterday, maybe afternoon or something like that. Matt Cardona did come on there and make a break news video where he did hit up Jeremy Padawer himself, and he talked to him a little bit about it. And I want to make sure that I get the quote right so I don't misquote him here. So let's get into it. So I'll give you the update about it, and then I'll tell you kind of what I'm thinking about the situation, the entire thing, from the Reddit post to Jeremy Padawer's comments to everything through 2026 and what I'm thinking in my brain, or kind of speculating what I think is happening with this situation, and you can let me know what you think. And just a little nugget of information, if you guys are unaware of who Jeremy Padawer is, he is the chief brand officer of Jazwares and kind of the face of the AEW Jazwares figure brand.
I went right to the source. Went right to Jeremy Padawer. I'm going to read a little statement here. So this will just shut people up, right? At least for the time being. So I think it's fair to say you've talked to me, and from everything you understand, and I've said, we are making AEW product in 2026. So chill out, guys.
Making AEW product in 2026.
So is that to say Jazwares and AEW won't split in 2027 or 2047? I don't know. That I don't know. But there will be AEW product in 2026. They are making AEW product in 2026.
Even that was very open-ended. You can speculate a million things here, but
right.
So he says we are making AEW product in 2026. Now, I think that with that, that's obviously great information. That means that going into 2026, we're going to get AEW Action Figures. But we have had a lot of figures on the horizon. Like we said, we talked about it at San Diego Comic-Con. There were a lot of figures right there, and I'm guessing that this could mean a whole slew of things. It's not like he said, this Reddit post is completely preposterous, and maybe he couldn't say that, or whatever the case is. Like, that's completely possible, I guess. But I don't know. That's kind of open-ended. That kind of leaves a little bit of, I don't think that's an absolute final statement or something that means, completely concrete. And I actually found this comment that I thought kind of sums up what my thoughts are a little bit here, and I'll get into that. So this comment says, notice Jeremy doesn't say they are making AEW figures for the entire year of 2026. A Google search shows Jazwares announced the AEW deal on February 20th, 2020. Their deal could be ending around that time, making both Jeremy and the Reddit insider correct. And this is kind of what I was meaning by his comments is I think that there could have been truth to both statements. I think that Jeremy could be coming out and saying, no, we're still going to be making figures through the end of 2025 into 2026 because, it doesn't say that it's completely preposterous. Again, like I said, he doesn't say that the Reddit post is, completely out of left field or anything like that. And again, maybe he couldn't say that or he doesn't want to say it that way, but if you look at the entire deal, we know that we're getting some figures in 2026, at least to my knowledge, because of some of these render images that we saw at Comic-Con. And just because a company loses the license doesn't mean that they are cutting cold turkey or whatever the case is. We've seen this with McFarlane this past year as well. Mattel is taking back the DC license. Well, just because that announcement is made does not mean that McFarlane does not put out any new figures. They don't announce any more figures. They've announced a lot of stuff, and they've even put out stuff. Even, I think, just the other day, they are still announcing some new stuff that is coming, I think, next year, if I'm not mistaken. So this is something that I think could, again, be both true on both sides. So what I'm saying here is, if you take a look at the Reddit post yesterday, maybe it's a case where the first deal, or the deal that they've previously made, maybe it's the deal that's February 20th, 2020, maybe that one has subsided, or maybe they renewed since then. I have no idea if Jazwares and AEW renewed after that 2020 agreement. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. If they renewed after that, I don't think there's public public record of it. But let's just say this is the 2020 deal that just expired. Well, maybe this person on Reddit got word of that, and so they were thinking, oh, it's an absolute split right here. Again, in that post, he says not quite sure yet the details around the split, but it's happening. And so then, behind the scenes, Jeremy and Jazwares are still trying to maybe figure out a new deal or a new extension or a new negotiation behind the scenes, and that is what he's currently working on. And while that is happening, they are still making figures throughout 2026. I mean, we already knew that we were getting figures in 2026 because of all the ringside exclusive Swerve figures and all those different things that we saw at San Diego Comic-Con. This is something that, the figures that are shown at Comic-Con are things that are going to be coming out the next year. If you go back to last year's San Diego Comic-Con, the Sting Legacy of Sting 3-pack, this is what Mattel does as well. They show off these renders, and those aren't figures that are coming. Some of the figures they show are for the rest of 2025, but a lot of the new stuff that they show off is for the next calendar year. And so that is what Comic-Con was for Jazwares as well. This is, they announced kind of what they've been working on going on into 2026. So I imagine in 2026, I think Jeremy's 100,000% correct. We are going to see AEW figures in 2026. They are going to be making AEW figures or AEW products in 2026, but it doesn't necessarily say that they're going beyond that, which maybe by that time, at the end of 2026 or maybe mid-2026 or possibly any day now, those negotiations that we talked about between AEW and Jazwares could be finalized where they ink a new deal, they get an extension, things like this. I mean, this has even happened with Mattel in the past, with WWE, where people have said, oh, the deal's up in February or whatever the case is, and then, we'll get the report by whoever the hell where Mattel and WWE sign another long deal, and it's through 2027. They're under a new deal right now, and I want to say they signed a new deal not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. So, Mattel, this is what happens when these, these toy companies or whatever are, signing licensing deals with, these different entities or whatever the case is. So, what I am happy about is that we did get an update straight from the horse's mouth, and that is great. But I hope that also, not just that, I'm glad they're making figures for 2026, but I hope they're making figures for 2027, 2028, or all into the future. I hope they ink a new deal, or, whatever the case is going, behind the scenes. I hope that all that gets worked out so that we do get Jazwares figures and new AEW and Jazwares figures. Like I said, coming out of Comic-Con, man, there was so much hype and excitement. Everybody was really excited for all the figures that they showed off. I mean, like I said yesterday, we have our Kyle Fletcher figure coming soon, and that probably is still coming out, like I said. But even, I don't know what off the top of the dome, I do not have the future lineups right off the top of my head like I was talking about. So I can't remember exactly what figures fit where, but some of those grayed out images, like the grayed out renders, those are probably the ones that are the furthest down the line that we do not have in hand yet. But there was a lot of great things like that shown off that I really want to see and all those different things. And like we talked about yesterday, I think, the Will Ospreay is still, I imagine 100% happening. I don't foresee that not making it again. There's already proto images of the Will Ospreay out there and things like that. So, but this was a nice update to get so that we know that, we're still getting figures in 2026. But at the same time, I kind of imagine that we would be getting figures in 2026. Even with the announcement or whatever that Reddit post was, I still in my head thought, okay, we're still going to get some AEW exclusives. We're still going to have AEW figures in 2026. And hopefully, again, we are going to see it beyond that. And this comment right here does say it only means they'll finish what they have announced for the year 26. And I think that, again, is just some speculation. That is what, based off of those comments that we heard from Jeremy, that is what I would expect. I actually found a post on Instagram that kind of does a great job of summarizing this entire deal. This comes from Versus_Figures. And he says here, so contrary to the Reddit leak yesterday, AEW and Jazwares are not splitting at least through 2026. This was confirmed by Matt Cardona in a text exchange with Jeremy Padawer. Now, Jeremy distinctly said that they are making new AEW Jazwares products through 26. So does that mean 2027 and beyond is up in the air? Maybe, or maybe that's when the deal ends. So if that's the case, Jeremy isn't going to promise 2027 on before a new deal is reached. Long story short, we will be getting all those SDCC AEW Jazwares reveals for the most part in 26 in the next 15 months of the partnership. I was bummed when the Reddit news spread because I feel Jazwares and AEW are the best match for each other in the current landscape of all elite wrestling. So I think that's a pretty good summary of everything that took place, the entire situation and everything like that. So shout out to Versus_Figures, and a shout out to the Major Pod for getting the update on this entire situation from Jeremy Padawer himself. What's also wild is I was trying to find information about a new deal being signed between AEW and Jazwares, and so I went to Google trying to look for a new deal or find out information about a new deal since 2020. So not talking about the 2020 deal, but just trying to see if there was a new deal since 2020 till now. So somewhere in maybe 2023 or something, it's just something that I did not know about. So when I Googled it, look at this AI overview. There's been no announcement of a new deal between AEW and Jazwares. In fact, recent reports indicate the partnership is expected to end. A specific timeline for when the deal will officially expire has not been publicly confirmed, but it is known that Jazwares will continue to produce AEW products at least through 2026. Here's a summary of the situation. So it says, split rumors emerge. In late September 2025, reports began to circulate online, particularly on social media platforms like Reddit, that Jazwares was losing its All Elite Wrestling license. Jazwares confirms 2026 production. The Major Wrestling Figure podcast provided clarification by sharing a text message from Jazwares Chief Brand Officer Jeremy Padawer. In the message, Padawer confirmed the company would continue to make AEW products in 2026, contradicting immediate speculation of a full and abrupt end. Uncertainty for 2027 and beyond. While production is confirmed for 2026, the longer-term future of the partnership remains unclear. The deal could be still set to expire sometime in 2026 or 27, with no new agreement in place yet. AEW figures from 2025 SDCC are still expected. During Comic-Con in July 2025, Jazwares revealed several new AEW figure prototypes. These products are still expected to be released as a part of the pipeline for 2026. For collectors, this means that while the Jazwares era of AEW figures appears to be ending, the announced product should still come out over the next year or so. After that, another toy manufacturer is expected to pick up the license. I think that's just insane that you can Google New Deal AEW Jazwares or something like that, and it give you a whole AI summary of the entire situation. That's actually nuts. That's actually insane that you're able to do that in the year 2025. Wow. So we should be getting everything that we saw at Comic-Con, and I hope to God that we do, and I hope we get figures beyond that. But if we get any more updates on this situation or anything regarding the AEW Jazwares deal or a new deal or anything like that, man, we will discuss it here on the channel, of course, and provide a news video or whatever the case has been. So I appreciate you guys for watching. I'd love to know your thoughts on the situation. But anyways, man, you can let me know all of your thoughts down in the comment section below as always. But I'm getting the hell out of here, man. Thank you guys so very much for watching. A huge shout out to our Patreon members as always. Thank you so much for your continued support, man. Thank you guys so very much from the bottom of my heart. But I'm getting the hell out, man. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a blessed one, and I'll catch you guys later.